"Don't start," my father said before I even finished the question. We were standing in the hospital discharge area, surrounded by balloons, flowers, and relatives whispering like my brother had come back from the dead. Daniel sat in a wheelchair by the automatic doors, pale but smiling, while my mother adjusted the blanket over his legs like cameras were watching. A nurse told her, "You must be so relieved." My mother pressed one hand to her chest and said loudly, "We spent every cent we had, but we saved our son. That's what real parents do." I looked down at Daniel's overnight bag in my hand. Every cent. They still had their house, their cars, their summer trip still circled on the calendar. And for the past 3 weeks, I had been buying their groceries, paying their overdue electric bill, and covering gas so they could drive to the hospital. So I asked quietly, "How did you pay the uncovered part?" My father's face hardened. "This is not the time to turn your brother's survival into an accounting problem." Daniel gave a weak laugh from the wheelchair. "Don't worry, May. Nobody expected you to help anyway." The relatives smiled awkwardly, like I was the problem for standing there with my mouth shut. Then a woman from records stepped out from behind the nurses' station, carrying a thick, faded file tied with a brittle red band. "Maya Catherine Ellis." I turned. "That's me." She handed it to me. Daniel squinted at the name on the front and laughed again. "That can't be yours. You barely had a broken arm growing up." My mother stopped fixing his blanket. The file was old. The corners were soft. Across the front, someone had stamped "confidential" in faded red ink. The records nurse looked between us. It was flagged during Mr. Ellis's discharge paperwork. "There's an old guarantor account connected to your identity." "My identity?" I asked. My father reached for the folder. "That's probably a mistake." I pulled it closer without thinking. His hand froze in the air. For the first time all morning, nobody was talking about Daniel's miracle. I slid my thumb under the red band. "Maya," my mother whispered, and there was something sharp in her voice I had never heard before. "Don't." But I opened it anyway. The first page had my full name at the top. Maya Katie Chirani Ilalias. Under it was a line, printed in bold capital letters. "Do not release to the patient or family." My throat tightened. I looked at my parents. My mother's eyes were fixed on the file. My father's jaw moved once, like he was chewing back words. Daniel was no longer smiling. The discharge doors opened behind us, letting in a rush of cold air from the hospital entrance. I turned the page just enough to see my date of birth, a pediatric admission number, and a section labeled SCALED settlement reference. I was 27 years old. I worked in hospital billing, and I knew enough to understand one thing immediately. Files did not accidentally follow the wrong patient for 21 years. So why was an old medical file, with my name on every page attached to my brother's surgery? Before we continue, drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you enjoy revenge stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. The moment the elevator doors opened into the parking garage, my mother grabbed my wrist. Not gently. Not like a scared mother trying to protect her daughter. Like someone trying to stop evidence from walking away. "Give it to me," she said. The file was pressed against my chest with both hands. "Why?" "Because it's hospital nonsense." Her voice was low, but her fingers dug harder. "Old paperwork, things get mixed up." "Then why did you tell me not to open it?" Her eyes flicked past me. My father was coming out of the elevator with Daniel's wheelchair, moving faster than he should have been moving with a son who had just survived surgery. "Maya," my father said, "hand your mother the file." I took one step back. The garage smelled like rainwater, exhaust, and disinfectant from Daniel's hospital blanket. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere behind us, my aunt was still saying goodbye to a nurse, completely unaware that my parents had both stopped acting grateful and started acting cornered. I opened the folder again. My mother reached for it. I turned away. "Stop," I said. The word sounded strange coming from me. Daniel rolled closer, wrapped in his blanket, one hand resting over the bandage under his shirt. "Seriously, we're doing this now." My father stepped between me and the path to my car. "Your brother almost died," he said. "You are not making this day about whatever confused feeling you're having." "I'm not confused." I looked down at the first page. "This has my name on it." "It's old," my mother snapped. Then she softened instantly, like she had caught herself. "Honey, you were little. You were too young to understand." "Understand what?" No one answered. That was when I saw it. Not just my name, not just the warning. A pediatric intake sheet, dated 21 years ago. Age, 6. Admitting concern, adverse medication reaction. Neurology consult requested. I stared at the words, waiting for my memory to catch up, but all I got were broken pieces. A white room. A plastic bracelet too loose on my wrist. My mother telling me not to cry, because Daniel had a school recital the next morning. I turned another page and saw a doctor's name I recognized. Dr. Albright. My parents had told me he was someone from school, a learning specialist, a man I had seen because I worried too much and got headaches when I wanted attention. But the page in my hand said neurology. Below that, stamped beside several lines of typed notes, were two words that made my stomach drop. SEALED settlement. "What settlement?" I asked. My mother's lips parted. My father answered instead. "You don't know what you're reading." "I work in billing, Dad. I know what a settlement reference looks like." Daniel shifted in the wheelchair. For 1 second, his eyes met my father's. Then he looked at me and gave a tired little laugh. "Oh, come on, Maya. You always find a way to make my worst day about you." My chest burned, but I did not move. That line should have worked. It always had before. When Daniel graduated, and I mentioned my college deposit had disappeared, I was ruining his moment. When Daniel wrecked my car and I asked who would pay for repairs, I was making him feel guilty. When Daniel got sick, and I covered groceries for our parents, I was told real family did not keep score. I looked from him to my parents. You all knew there was a file. My mother's eyes filled, but no tears fell. "Maya, listen to me. There are things parents handle because children can't. That file will only confuse you." "I'm not a child." "No," my father said coldly, "but you're acting like one." He held out his hand. The command was familiar. The silence after it was familiar too. Usually, that was where I apologized just to make the air breathable again. Instead, I closed the folder. "No." My mother blinked. Daniel's mouth tightened. My father said, "Excuse me." "I'm keeping it." "You will not walk out of here with confidential medical documents you don't understand. They have my name on them. They involve this family." I stepped around him. He moved to block me again, but this time a couple getting out of a nearby car glanced over. My father noticed. He lowered his hand and forced a smile like we were only having a normal family disagreement. I kept walking. My legs felt weak, but I reached my car, unlocked it, and dropped into the driver's seat with the file on my lap. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely open my camera. I needed pictures before anyone took this from me. The first page filled my screen. "Do not release to the patient or family." I tapped the button. Nothing happened. I tapped again. A gray warning appeared. "No service." Then the signal bars vanished completely. A second later, a text flashed across the top of the dead screen from the carrier app, delivered through hospital Wi-Fi before everything cut out. "Account holder has removed this line from the family plan." I looked through the windshield. Across the garage, my father stood beside Daniel's wheelchair, his phone in his hand. And he was watching me. 2 days later, I walked into my parents' house without being invited. The front door was unlocked because half the family was inside. I could hear them before I stepped in. Someone was laughing in the kitchen. Someone else was praying softly in the living room. Balloons were tied to the staircase railing, silver and blue, spelling out "Welcome home, Daniel." On the coffee table, beside a casserole dish and a stack of paper plates, sat a clear plastic donation box. Help Richard and Helen recover after Daniel's surgery. My hand tightened around the envelope under my arm. My mother had ignored every call since the parking garage. Daniel had blocked my number before my phone line even came back on. My father had sent one message from my mother's phone. "Drop this before you hurt your brother." So I came in person. My Aunt Linda spotted me first. Her smile froze for half a second before she raised both hands. "Maya, there you are, come see your brother." Daniel was in the recliner by the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket, looking pale enough that everyone kept lowering their voices around him. My mother sat beside him like a guard. My father stood near the mantel with his hand on Daniel's shoulder, receiving praise like a man accepting an award. "You two are incredible," Aunt Linda said to my parents. "I mean it, bankrupting yourselves for your son. Most people wouldn't know that kind of love." My mother dabbed her eyes. My father looked down, humble and proud at the same time. Then my cousin dropped a folded bill into the donation box. "We're all helping," she said. "You shouldn't have to rebuild alone." I looked at the box, then at my parents, then at the framed photo board propped beside the television. Daniel's miracle journey. There were pictures from the hospital hallway, Daniel asleep after surgery, my mother holding his hand, my father talking to doctors. One photo had been cropped so tightly that my sleeve was still visible on the edge, but my face was gone. I stared at it until Daniel noticed. "Don't start," he said from the recliner. The room quieted. My mother stood. "Maya, not today." "That's funny," I said. "Everyone keeps telling me there's never a good day to talk about money that had my name on it." My aunt blinked. "What money?" My father's smile disappeared. "Maya," he said, his voice low, "step outside." "No." The word hit the room harder than I expected. Daniel shifted against his pillows. "Are you serious? You came here to attack Mom and Dad while I'm recovering." "I came here because there's a donation box on the table asking people to pay them back for money they may have already taken from me." My mother gasped like I had slapped her. "That is a disgusting thing to say." "Then explain it." She turned to the family before answering me. "Maya has always struggled with Daniel needing attention. This surgery has been hard on everyone, and she's confused." "I'm not confused." I pulled one copied page from the envelope. My father moved toward me. I held it higher. "If you touch this," I said, "everyone here is going to wonder why." He stopped. Aunt Linda stepped closer, squinting. "What is that?" I read it out loud. "Minor Patient Settlement Trust. Beneficiary, Maya K. Ellis." The living room went still. Even the kitchen noise stopped. My cousin whispered, "Settlement." My mother looked at my father. That look told me more than any answer could have. My father exhaled through his nose. "There was some money from when Maya was sick as a child. It was handled years ago." "Handled how?" I asked. "It was family money." "It says beneficiary. That means me." "You were a minor." "I'm not now." His face reddened. "Your brother was dying. Parents are allowed to use family resources in a life-or-death emergency." Aunt Linda slowly lowered the paper plate in her hand. "So the surgery wasn't paid for by you selling everything?" she asked. My mother snapped. "That is not the point." Daniel's voice cut through the room. "Dad told me she didn't need it anymore." Nobody moved. I looked at him. He realized too late that he had said it out loud. "What?" I asked. Daniel swallowed, then tried to lean back like he was too tired for the conversation. "I mean, that's what he said, that you were fine, that the account was just sitting there. Before your surgery, I said. His eyes slid away. I felt something in me go cold. You knew. Maya. You knew my name was attached to the money, and you still let everyone call them heroes for spending everything. My mother rushed to his side. He was fighting for his life. And I was standing right there holding his bag, while you all lied in my face. My father stepped closer, no longer pretending for the room. That money saved your brother, he said. You should be proud it finally did something useful. I had my phone in my hand. This time, it was not on the family plan. The recording light was already red. I looked at the donation box, at the cropped photo, at Daniel's silent face, at my mother's hands clenched around the blanket like she was holding the whole lie together. Then I reached into the envelope and pulled out the second page. The one I had not shown them yet. My father's eyes dropped to it. His expression changed. I said, then you won't mind explaining why my signature is on a withdrawal form dated last month. My father crossed the room so fast that Aunt Linda stepped between us by instinct. Give me that, he said. I folded the withdrawal form against my chest. No. Daniel's face had gone gray, and my mother kept saying his name under her breath like the sound alone could pull everyone's attention back where she wanted it. Daniel needs rest, she said. Everyone should go. But nobody moved. Not until my father unlocked the front door, held it open, and said, family gathering is over. One by one, people left with casserole dishes in their hands and questions on their faces. Nobody looked at the donation box anymore. When I tried to step farther into the house, my father blocked me. You're done here. This is my file. This is our home. Then he shut the door in my face. Through the front window, I saw my relatives still inside, frozen behind the curtains. Daniel stared at the floor. My mother stood with one hand over her mouth. My father came back out alone. The door clicked shut behind him. His voice dropped. Delete the recording. No. You have no idea what you're doing. I know someone signed my name. His nostrils flared. Accusing your own parents of theft will destroy this family. You mean it will destroy your story? He stepped closer. It will destroy Daniel's recovery. It will destroy your mother. And for what? Money you didn't even know existed yesterday. That almost landed. Almost. Because for a second, I heard the old version of myself. The girl who apologized when Daniel broke something. The woman who paid bills quietly because her parents said they were drowning. The daughter who had been trained to think needing answers was cruelty. Then I looked at the copy in my hand. My signature. Last month's date. A trust I had never been told existed. I walked past him to my car. He called after me. Maya, if you take this outside the family, don't expect to come back. I did not turn around. I drove straight to the hospital where I worked in billing, but I did not clock in. I went to the administrative wing and asked for Serena Vale, the compliance officer who had trained our department on patient privacy and document handling. When she saw my face, she closed her office door. What happened? I put the file on her desk but kept one hand on it. I need you to look at the headers only, not the medical details. Just tell me what kind of file this is. Serena did not touch it at first. She read the case number, then the stamp, then the settlement reference. Her expression changed carefully, professionally, but I knew enough to catch it. Maya, she said, where did you get this? Records handed it to me during my brother's discharge. That should not have happened casually. What is it? She leaned back. This file number belongs to a sealed pediatric malpractice claim. The room narrowed around me. Pediatric. Malpractice. Claim. My parents said I was just sick when I was little. Serena's voice stayed calm. Do not confront them further without legal advice, and do not let anyone pressure you to return your only copies. That sentence made my hands cold. My only copies. On the drive home, pieces started arranging themselves in ways I did not want. The fainting spells I barely remembered. The neurologist my parents called a school specialist. The way my mother always changed the subject when doctors asked about childhood history. The college fund that vanished when I was 19, right after Daniel needed help with a failed business course, and my father said money was tight for everyone. By morning, I was sitting across from a probate attorney named Carla Nguyen, with the file open between us and my phone recording from the family gathering, saved in 3 different places. Carla read silently for 5 minutes. Then she tapped the page labeled Minor Patient Settlement Trust. This could not be emptied for your brother's expenses unless you consented as an adult beneficiary or a court authorized it. I never consented. She turned to the next page. Then we request bank records immediately. We also preserve records before anything disappears. So I signed the paperwork. Not because I was brave. Because my parents had already started moving like people with something to hide. That afternoon, Helen called 11 times. I let every call go to voicemail. The first few were sharp. Maya, call me back. You're scaring your brother. Then softer. Honey, your father made the decision. Daniel was dying. Then almost a whisper. You need to remember what families owe each other. I sat at my kitchen table, listening to that one twice, my finger hovering over delete. My mother sounded small. For 1 second, I almost called her. Then an email from the bank arrived. Requested authorization records attached. I opened the scan. There it was. My name. Maya K. Ellis. The signature looked enough like mine to fool someone who had only seen it once. But the date printed beside it was from last month. A Thursday. I checked my calendar, then pulled up my work portal with shaking hands. That Thursday, I had worked a double shift from 7:00 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. across town. I printed the time card. Then I printed the forged authorization. Side by side, the lie finally had a shape. My phone rang before the second page finished sliding out of the printer. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. A woman's voice said, Ms. Ellis, this is hospital legal. Your parents just requested your file be resealed. I gripped the phone so tightly, the edge pressed into my palm. They requested what? I asked. The woman from hospital legal repeated it in a careful voice. Your parents contacted our office this morning and stated that confidential pediatric records were released improperly. They asked that all copies be retrieved and the file be resealed. I looked at the 2 pages on my printer tray. The forged withdrawal authorization. My time card. They're trying to take it back, I said. There was a pause. Then she said, Ms. Ellis, because you are the patient named in the file and you are now an adult, we need to speak with you directly. Do you have representation? I looked across my kitchen table at Carla Nguyen's business card. Yes, I said, I do. The meeting happened 3 days later in a small conference room at the hospital, with blinds pulled halfway down and a pitcher of untouched water in the center of the table. Carla sat beside me. Serena from compliance sat across from us with a folder of internal records. A hospital attorney placed the old medical file on the table like it was something fragile. My parents arrived 10 minutes late. My mother looked like she had not slept. My father looked furious that anyone had made him sit on the wrong side of a table. Daniel came with them, moving slowly, his hand pressed to his abdomen, his face hollow. The hospital attorney began. At age 6, Maya Ellis was admitted for treatment and received an incorrect medication dosage. My mother closed her eyes. I did not look away. The error caused complications requiring neurological follow-up and long-term monitoring. The hospital settled the claim confidentially with Richard and Helen Ellis acting on behalf of their minor child. A protected trust was created for Maya's future medical care, education support, and adult needs. The room was so quiet I could hear Daniel breathing. Carla slid one page forward. That trust was not general family money. My father leaned back. We used it to save our son. You used it, Carla said, after Maya became an adult, which required her consent or court approval. My father's mouth tightened. My mother started crying before anyone asked her a question. You were healthy enough, she said to me, her voice breaking. Daniel was dying. I opened the old file and turned it toward her. Healthy enough. My finger landed on a page listing follow-up appointments I never attended. Neurology, balance testing, medication reviews, annual monitoring. You told me those headaches were stress. You told me Dr. Albright was for school. You told me not to mention fainting spells because doctors would overreact. My mother covered her mouth. My father cut in. This lawsuit is cruel. I took out the withdrawal form. No, I said, this is cruel. I read the date out loud. Then I placed my hospital time card beside it. According to this, I signed permission to close my trust at 2:15 p.m. on a Thursday. According to the hospital, I was working a double shift across town from 7 in the morning until almost midnight. Daniel stared at the papers. For once, he did not have a joke. The hospital attorney looked at my parents. This matter will also be referred for financial review. The bank has already been notified. My father's face lost color. My mother whispered, Richard. But he did not look at her. He looked at me like I had betrayed him by refusing to stay useful. I turned to Daniel. When everyone called you a miracle, I asked, did you ever think about what it cost me? His throat moved. He opened his mouth once, then closed it. That was his answer. The full record came out in pieces over the next few weeks, but nothing changed the center of it. Daniel's transplant had been covered in part by insurance, but the specialist fees, private aftercare, travel costs, and extra expenses were not. My parents had not sold everything. They had found my trust, decided I no longer deserved it, forged my adult consent, and drained nearly all of it through an old financial contact who had known our family for years. Daniel had not known every document was forged, but he had known the money was mine. He had let our relatives put cash into a donation box, while my name sat buried under red stamps and legal warnings. The hospital opened an internal review into how the files surfaced during Daniel's discharge. Serena told me later that the guarantor account match had triggered an old record flag, and someone in records had followed the wrong release process. That mistake was the only reason I ever saw the truth. The bank froze what was left of the trust. Carla filed a civil claim against my parents for misuse of protected funds and fraud. The fundraiser page disappeared after Aunt Linda posted that donations would be returned, pending a legal investigation. Nobody used the words miracle parents after that. My father lost his position as treasurer at church when the financial allegations reached the board. My mother's sisters stopped sharing posts about sacrifice and started calling me privately, not to apologize perfectly, but to say they had not known. Daniel's friends still brought him meals. He still had people hoping he recovered. But the story around him changed. People stopped asking why I was jealous. They started asking why I had been erased. I did not get every dollar back overnight. I did not get a clean apology. My family did not heal in one emotional conversation, and I stopped waiting for one. What I did get was control. Control of the remaining trust documents. Control of my medical history. Control of my bank accounts, my phone plan, and every piece of paper my parents had once treated like it belonged to them. Months later, I sat in a specialist's office with the old file open beside a new medical plan. The doctor read through my childhood records, then looked at me instead of over me. We're going to start from the beginning, she said. This time, you'll know what every page means. I nodded, and for the first time, there was no parent interrupting, no brother needing the room, no family story swallowing mine before I could speak. When I left that appointment, I carried copies of everything in my own hands. My brothers survived because of what they took from me, but I survived because I finally opened the file.